If she didn't want to go, I wish she would have just said so instead of giving me some lame excuse. I'm still going. It's just not as much fun without a friend. I know I sound like a toddler mom, but she really hurt my feelings. Why? Because of her ridiculous excuse. She sent me a message yesterday to say that she couldn't go because her son's turtle was sick. A turtle. No, she didn't give any details, but it was obviously a case of turtle trumps Claire. I know, I should just give her the benefit of the doubt, but I'm really disappointed and actually kind of mad. It's as if she grabbed at the first half-baked excuse she could, when the truth is she just didn't want to come. Hang on, a text just came through. I want to see what it is. Okay, Mom, you were right. It was just a total misunderstanding. The text message said, Tutor's still sick, but the sub can come, so I can come. See you at 10. Tutor, Mom, not turtle.
You know, with friendships, I mean, misunderstandings so easily happen because we're imperfect people. And so there's misunderstandings or miscommunications. And I mean, almost every one of us has had to experience a friendship fiasco at some point in time. So can you think of a time where you experienced kind of a friendship gone wrong and what happened with that?
I experienced a friendship fiasco, and it was, I knew for a while it was a toxic friendship, and so it needed to end at some point. But I suddenly found myself on the receiving end of a breakup conversation in which she informed me we could no longer be friends. And that was really hard to walk through and to accept humbly, but also recognize like this was unhealthy and we needed to move on, both of us.
I think it probably happens more often than what we realize.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've had a friendship dissolve too. And it wasn't an explicit conversation that we had. It was just, we kind of parted ways, and it was tough. I have a small circle of friends, so to see a friendship, be no longer was difficult, but it's a learning experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm like you, Jill, where I had a lot of male friends before I got married. And so to navigate that after marriage was a bit tricky because, I could no longer do what I did before. I'm not sure if that's going to go along with what you're talking about.
Yeah,
but,
that's good.
But yeah, so I had to learn the boundaries between, just for my husband's sake and also for their wives' sake as well, because we didn't want the jealousy factor going in there. So I had to learn how to navigate that, and there are things that I couldn't do any longer as, with my male friends.
That brings up a friendship baggage that a lot of us carry into friendships. Have you guys had any other friendship baggage experience?
Well, you were talking about experiencing a friendship that kind of went south in a friendship breakup, and I experienced that as well. I mean, it was after, 7 years of very tight friendship, and I remember after that happened, I was so heartbroken that I really thought, no, I'm not messing with this anymore. That was, because it was one of my early mom friendships, and so this was somewhat new to me anyway, and then to experience that, and so I was ready to just chuck it all, go back to where I was before, and yet then I had to realize, okay, I'm letting my baggage from the past, I'm really letting it stop me from moving forward, and so it was a place where I had to recognize it for what it was, and every relationship wasn't going to turn out that way. I had that fear, but it wasn't going to turn out that way.
I have a similar baggage, I guess. Just growing up, I had a friendship for a long time, actually, and looking back on it, I'm kind of like, oh my goodness, like that was like an abusive friendship. She was a terrible friend, I didn't see it then, but it was important to see it for what it was, that she was a bad friend. Not that all friends are bad, you know, and to separate it and that to move forward and try to build healthy relationships, and to see also behaviors in the future of friends that might be kind of, you know, not the best ones to be spending time with, and to just, you know, be a, I don't know, be, what's the word I'm looking for?
Discerning.
Yes, be discerning. Thank you. Be discerning in choosing friends, you know?
Right. And you mentioned toxic friendships, and that's hard. I mean, that's just, it's hard to imagine, especially sometimes when we're in a toxic friendship. That person in particular, maybe there's a lot of pain in their life. And so you hate, you know, breaking up that friendship. And sometimes what you have to do in those cases, I have found, is really just set more boundaries. I mean, sometimes you may need to completely pull away, but you also sometimes have to set those boundaries. And I think that's hard, you know. But I'm thinking about friendship and grace and friendship and forgiveness. Has there ever been a time where you've had to ask for forgiveness or you've had to offer forgiveness? And what was that like in a friendship? I actually have a time where I was at a preschool, I think open house or something like that. And I mean, there were a lot of people there, a lot of people there. And so after the open house was over, I got a phone call from this gal that I knew. And she said, "Have I offended you?" And I was like, "No. Why?" And she said, "Because you looked right at me at the preschool open house and you didn't say anything to me." And I was like, "I did not even see you. Like, I never even saw you there." And she said, "Well, you looked right at me. I didn't ever see you there. I'm so sorry," you know. And so, you know, when I think about that, I mean, I certainly, you know, apologized and I asked for forgiveness. But I think the thing about that, when I think about it, is number one, I was glad she called. I really was. Because if she had not called, then she would have misread it, and she would have just carried that forward. And so I was grateful she did. I think a lot of times we don't do that, and we don't ask our thoughts, we don't ask for clarification, but it's so important too. So what about friendship, grace, forgiveness?
I've had to ask for forgiveness for something that I didn't do. I was not wrong about it, but I just did it because I wanted to salvage our relationship, and you know, and I knew it was the right thing to do. It was just dying to myself, and that was really hard because I knew, you know, in my heart that I was not wrong about this, but you know, it was just like laying it down, and just, you know, it wasn't worth it, and so, you know, just being the bigger person to ask for forgiveness. That was really, I felt horrible, even though I just didn't feel like there was justice, you know. And but I know that, you know, that's what Jesus want me to do. So, you know.
Sometimes we do have to do that to salvage a friendship. You don't want to do that over and over, because that's when it becomes toxic. But as long as that friendship isn't like, you know, it's not characterized by that, then that's I think that sometimes we have to do that just simply because it's the right thing to do. That's good.
I have friends within my working relationships at work, and it's a high stress environment working at the hospital sometimes. And there was one time in particular that a girl I consider a friend, it was just high stress, and I snapped at her, and I went home that night and thought that was not kind of me to, you know. So not only is she a coworker, but she is a friend. And so I had to call her and say, you know, I'm really sorry that you took the brunt of my stress this afternoon. And it's important, I think, to be able to ask forgiveness like that.
Right. And you know, what you're saying, I think really is big too. Years ago in our marriage, Mark and I found that we discovered, we were in counseling, and we discovered we were only offering each other half apologies. And I'm sorry is a half apology. I'm sorry, will you please forgive me is a full apology. And we need that in our marriage. We need it with our kids, but I think we need it in our friendships as well. That because when we say, I'm sorry, will you please forgive me, it is a question that has to have an answer at some point, you know. And so either that answer is I forgive you, or it may be I need to think about it, or you know, something like that. But sometimes when we just say I'm sorry, we stop before we finish it out and really ask for that, and that brings closure. That's one of the things, is it really brings closure to that conflict.
Honestly, one of the things that's been difficult throughout this has been seeing Claire have conversations with her mom on the phone, since I lost my mom several years ago, and it was a difficult thing to recover from.
Yeah.
I agree. My mom lives very far away, and so it's just so easy to get envious of people who can go out to lunch with their mom, and I can't have that. But I do think that, you know, it's the enemy just planting those seeds of discontentment, and I have to bring back, you know, reel it in. This is how I deal with that. It's like, no, I need to be content with where God has me at this very moment. So
You have to remind yourself of some truth and kind of ground yourself again.
exactly.
That's good. That's important. Good. Thank you for being honest about that. So this has been really good conversation. Thank you. And Annie, I think you've got the mom tip today.
So I run a home daycare, and so I experience a lot of picky eaters. And a friend of mine suggested that when you are preparing your meal, that you have your child pick out the food, and that you have them choose one new food that they have to eat. And a lot of times when they have the choice, they then respond by eating it or cooking alongside of you. That's another great thing. I have the kids preparing meals with me, and then they're more inclined to eat the food that they've prepared.
Yeah.
That's neat.
That's so good.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. We mom better when we mom together with forgiveness and grace.